Welcome back to our series on the history of the Jewish people from 500 BC, 520 BCE to 100 CE. This is a 10-part series, and this by Susan Hares. This is part 1, the Persian rule of Palestine, which occurred from 520 BCE to 336 BCE. Now, if you look at this timeline, you see that 520 begins with the return of some Jews to Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the temple. You also see that Persia is beginning to stretch outward through Xerxes and others toward Greece. Xerxes, the king of Persia, attacks Greece across the isthmus, and you have the Battle of Thermopylae and the naval battle of Salamis. At the same year, you see Nehemiah rebuilding the Jerusalem wall. As Nehemiah and Ezra work on rebuilding Jerusalem, you see that Persia has stopped attacking Greece in some periods, and there is the start of the Peloponnesian War where the Greeks fight within themselves. 422 sees Darius II, the king of Persia, and Macedonia begins to increase in power between 413 and 339. There is also the Jewish temple at Elephantine in Egypt is destroyed during this period, and Xerxes, the king of Persia, sees that Egypt rebels against it. And you have Xerxes III, the king of Persia, going, and then finally you see the war between the Greek and the Persians, where first the Macedonian king Philip subdues the Lycians, which is north of the Roman peninsula, the Thracians above, and the Greeks below, in order to become a superpower. Well, let's look at that map. You see in this presentation the extent of the Persian Empire at 520. It went all the way to the Hindu Kush Mountains, up toward the Aral Sea, and across all of the Arabian, Persian Peninsula, and to Susa, and between Susa and Sardis there was a royal road leading toward the Macedonia and the Ionians. In many cases, the Asia Minor Ionian lands and areas had been conquered by Persia, and Persia had conquered Egypt. The Jews were allowed to return to their area in Judea. If you notice, that's right in this area of the area. It was a sub-Syrian province for the Persians. Now, the Persian wars became very costly. The first is Persia's unsuccessful attack on Naxos causes the Ionian settlements in Asia Minor to rebel, and Persia begins its first war. At first, Macedonia fights as a Persian ally, thinking to get rid of the Greek influence. Then you have two major battles, Thermopylae, where exists Persia's second invasion of Greece, and Athens fall, and Persia conquers most of Greece. Even though you hear in our current movies about the 300 from Sparta who fought against it, most of Greece was conquered. The difficulty is that the Greek navy conquers the Persian navy through fairly good tactics at Salamis, and the Persians retreat to Asia Minor. The Persian and the Greeks have a city-state war from 1479 to 59 BC, and finally, after a number of years, 7 years where there was not much war, they signed a peace treaty. If you look at Thermopolis, Thermopolis was a place where they were hoping to enter the battle place, and it's a relatively small area. If you perhaps have the ideas behind it, it shows it's part of the general attack. Now, at Salamis, the smaller Tyrians fought the Phoenicians, the Iocians, the Cyprians, the Ceotians, and the Persians in this idea. Remember, the Egyptians and all of these were sort of conquered. Thermopolis blocked the landing for Thermopolis by ramming the ships. There was a great deal of navy coming into this small area, but they brought them into an area where the larger set of ships could not attack. So the Greek ships of about 300 Tyrians bottled up the 800 galleys and rammed it in the straits. The Greeks lost 40 ships, and the Persians lost 300 of their 800 ships. Well, the next presentation will show how the Greek rule, first under Alexander the Great and then under his generals, affected Palestine. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to joining you again for part 2 of this history of the Jewish people.